When I was a child, I took the moral formation of my sister very seriously. Kat is almost 5 years younger than I am, so it was easy to imagine how advanced of her in the ways of the world I was. I believed she was lucky to have me around to expand her horizons. At 10 years old, I thought being a good person was all about learning the rules and following them to the letter. At 5 years old, she still believed in magic and never needed rules that would limit her freedom. At times, I had noble motives. When I encouraged her to place her beloved security blanket in the trash can on trash day without my mother's knowledge, it was not out of spite or malice. I really had a genuine desire to help her stop being such a baby. But there were other occasions, like many other older siblings, I was flat out manipulative. One that causes immediate laughter between us still as adults was the infamous case of the magic water, or MW as we came to call it. The premise was rather simple. I decided it would be helpful to have a method of enlisting my sister's service without any need to negotiate. She would become a better person through my direction, and I would have the convenience of a compliant servant. Since she couldn't have been much older than 5 or 6, I told her I was in possession of some magic water. It would have amazing properties and change her life forever. I would be willing to share it with her, but only if she agreed to follow my strict instructions. My commandments had to be followed without question, or the magical effects of the water would instantly disappear. I can still see her innocent face nodding, like Jack about to purchase his handful of magic beans, as I explained the procedure to her. I handed her the small bottle of tap water I had prepared and told her when she was ready, she could drink it. I looked solemnly at her after she swallowed it and told her I could see it was already working. She danced off happily to wait for its effects. I'm still not sure to this day what effects she imagined she'd experienced, but she believed something had happened. For some period of time, whenever I needed something fetched or a chore completed, I would look at Kat, make my request, raise my left eyebrow and say, MW. She would then rush off to accomplish my bidding. It was great. Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven." This text from Matthew, continuing our reading from the Beatitudes, names one of the central tensions of the early church and something we still struggle with today. What is our relationship as Christians to the law and the commandments? And what freedom from sin, as we prayed in our collect this morning, do we find in Jesus's fulfillment of the law? Are we free from rules or subject to even greater requirements? At first blush, Jesus sounds like the new sheriff in town. He's not going to only enforce the 10 Commandments, but be vigilant about anything that might lead us in any direction of their violation. Not a good thing for any of us who are perfectionists to be hearing. But it is hard to reconcile the self-sacrificing love of Jesus with an assumption that somehow now we better be perfect or else. I hope and certainly know and believe that that's not what fulfillment of the law looks like, or I imagine a number of us might be in trouble. If we could accomplish this way of living in love easily, we would have gotten rid of the corporate confession long ago. But we cannot just sidestep these hard words because they seem to make us uncomfortable or they seem too difficult. To sugarcoat the commands of Jesus is to treat grace as a magical vial of water that allows us to dance carefree without any transformation. Or, worse yet, we don't want to see God as an older sibling who now directs each and all of our movements. To ignore the caution in the words of the gospel this Sunday is to fundamentally underestimate the real difficulty we have to love well when the rubber meets the road. Many of us have said or heard young children say, "I can't wait to grow up so I can do whatever I want." Unless I miss the deadline, I suspect at some point we realize that's not quite how it works. Freedom, if it is true and long-lasting, political or personal, is never free from structure. It has to be balanced with justice and rule or law. We cannot act unilaterally or without consequence, regardless of our desires. Throughout the ages, Christians have debated what the role of the law should be in a life that is drenched in mercy and grace. Even the term law, though, can be ambiguous. Do we mean the 10 Commandments? Do we mean every jot and tittle in the book of Leviticus? And how does our modern understanding of the law and regulation complicate our hearing? And if we fear the reliability of our civil laws or justice, can the laws of faith support and undergird what we are being called to do as people of faith at this time and in this place? To follow the demands of Torah was not meant to be an unattainable burden for God's chosen people. It was seen as a privilege. It gives us a manner of life that forms people deeply in the ways of God. It gives the promise of a life of shalom, which is more than the absence of conflict, but peace and wholeness. When Jesus critiques those followers of the law, those Pharisees, he's saying they have lost the forest for the trees. And I imagine we can see our own complicity in our own desire for easy formulas or magical cures in our religious lives. The very fact that we acknowledge that we fall short, become angry, and separated from one another reminds us we can no more fulfill the law than the most committed of Pharisees. Jesus said, "Do not think I come to abolish the law and the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill." It is Jesus that has come to fulfill, not us. It is only through his deep accompaniment of us through the challenges of this life that opens us to a fuller sense of grace and mercy. Fulfillment of our Christian calling is always a good deal more messy, but it is our very messiness that draws us closer to Jesus. It is only through his mediation that we are able to glimpse holy love for one another. It is only through his mediation that we remain steadfast and hopeful, able to bear light into the world when so much feels hopeless. It is not about our own ability to achieve perfection, but rather a willingness to tolerate our own imperfections, those that we encounter, and those that are so obvious in our world. That is when we acknowledge our real need for the reconciling love of God. Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen tells a story about her own struggles with perfectionism in her old book, Kitchen Table Wisdom. She offers this story. Life offers us many teachers and many teachings. One of mine was David, who was an artist and my first love, the living proof that opposites attract. While we were together, my driver's license came up for renewal, and I needed to take a written test of the traffic laws. The DMV had sent a little booklet, and I studied it for days. All the while, I was memorizing the meaning of the white curb and the yellow curb. David kept trying to persuade me to join him for a walk, or go to a party, or out to dinner or dancing, or even just to talk. I told him I couldn't take the time. Of course, I got 100% on the test. Triumphant, I rushed into his studio shouting that I had gotten 100% on my driving test. David looked up from his painting with an expression of great tenderness. "My love," he said, "why would you want to do that?" Jesus said, "Do not think I come to abolish the law. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill." What is life fulfillment like for us as people of faith? It is being open and engaged, loving, and we bear that light into the world. Amen.